Hey, welcome back to another episode of On the Verge, the voice of Southern Oregon, your conservative voice of Southern Oregon. Today is Friday, July 11th. I am absolutely happy to say we have a great guest today. Monique DeSpain has joined us. And of course, we have Trent Drake, our Republican Party chair. I'm going to let them introduce themselves here in just a second, but I want to first cover real quick. Little Mill Media is our sponsor that puts on this. I wouldn't say they're our sponsor. They're our managing group that puts on this podcast, and they do a great job for us. And I always want to thank them. Twin Peaks Off-Road, my company, also sponsors this as well. And now Diamond Lake Mini Storage is came on, and they are sponsoring our podcast. And there is room for more. We have open spots if you would like to sponsor the podcast, and it does get you some time on the show as well if you'd like to join us on the show. And you can talk about whatever you would like to talk about on the show. This is I think our 12th episode, and so far we've had some great following, and we appreciate everybody that is watching these, and we hope that you will continue to follow us on Spotify and on Apple Music and Amazon Music and YouTube, and I think we're on about 13 other places as well. Please like and share, tell your friends. This is your voice. This is where we go to talk politics, and you guys will get the real story. You'll know what's really happening in the legislature. I'm your host, Virgil, House District 2 rep. I should have introduced myself as well, but On the Verge is my podcast. So not everybody likes our podcast, and I always have to say that if you don't like it, don't watch. Little Mill Media is here. They'll put a podcast on for you, and you're welcome to take off and run your own. But I really feel that podcasts are the way of the future. We are talking about things that are real. We only tell the truth here, and that's very important to me. With that said, we will get into some legislative stuff. But first, I always I have my guests introduce themselves. So first, I want to go ahead and have Monique tell you who she is and what she's all about. Yeah.
Thank you. Monique DeSpain. I live in Eugene. It was a beautiful drive this morning. And work in Salem at Common Sense for Oregon. It's a nonprofit that I like to call, we're transitioning from a think tank to an action tank on important nonpartisan issues like public safety, taxation, reducing taxes. And we're really getting organized to get some work done, hopefully with legislators like you, on forest management and fire prevention and suppression. So we work on things like that. And it's fun to come back to Roseburg. I ran for Congress in the 4th District and enjoyed the support of these two. Yeah, it was a great experience. We really made some progress, I think, in getting the messages out that the people of Roseburg in the 4th District want our elected officials to pay attention to.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. And I remember when you're running, you and I got to know each other pretty well at the fair and everywhere else that we spoke. And I really stand up and for the things you believe in. And I think on a political basis, we're pretty much right in lockstep with each other. And to my right,
Trent Drake, and I am the executive chair of the Douglas County Republican Central Committee and your campaign manager.
That's right. You're my campaign manager.
Coming up on that time again.
I can't believe all these. It's been 22. We started in like late 21 or something like that. We did, and here we go again. We're gonna start this process again.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people talk about term limits. It's like, well, our term limits is 2 years. I mean, we have to campaign every 2 years. We run for re-election, and which is fine. It means you're either going to do a good job and get reelected, or they're going to get rid of you. So it does happen. So before we get started on some stuff that I know that I'm looking forward to talking with Monique about, I want to talk about a couple of things, and obviously what's happening. Everybody's aware of what's happening with the ODOT end of session ODOT bill that would have funded the transportation, and just to quickly touch on that. And as you know, I'm Republican, so. Right now, our governor is very, very upset with all the Republican Party because we did not go along with her tax bill that she wanted to sign. And, just to give a little history, the way this whole thing started, we've been in session since January, and they never brought any Republicans to the table. They finally did pick off a few Republicans, I think it was in May, late May, maybe early June, to bring to the table to talk, but they didn't approach any, and when I say the majority party Democrats did not approach our leadership in the Republican side to come up with any kind of solutions. And so we were forced as a party to come up with our own solution. And we did that. In June, the Republican Party caucus in Salem presented our own plan, which had no tax increases to it at all. It preserved all of the needed jobs, pretty much most of the jobs, especially the maintenance jobs, the jobs that actually where the rubber hits the road, where those guys are needed. But it eliminated a few things. It eliminated some spending that was going to go to non-government organization, nonprofits for climate change, right? I mean, there's $500 million in that budget that's going to an organization called Seeding Justice. And all they do is try to prevent you from being able to drive your car for the most part, and other things. And then, of course, the DEI section of it as well. So the shortfall would have easily been covered. Nobody would have had to have lost their jobs had the governor and the Speaker of the House brought the Republicans to the table and had the discussion. We would not be sitting here even talking about it. We'd be sitting here talking about how the ODOT thing is worked out and we're all happy. Instead, they waited until late into the session to present their plan. And I literally, like 2 weeks before the end of session, I think is when they presented their plan, which I'm sure everybody is aware of, House Bill 2025. If you've watched me on social media, you've probably heard some discussion about it. When they did that, the bill was so egregious and it raised taxes. I mean, it was a huge hit. It was a $15 billion over 10-year tax increase, which included as much as 80 cents a gallon in fuel tax. It increased the payroll tax. It increased the burden. The livability of Oregon would have greatly suffered for the amount of taxes. So when they presented that, assuming their party was just going to jump on board and vote yes on it, they found out that their party didn't jump on board. And in the House of Representatives, you need 36 votes to be able to pass the tax bill. All tax bills start in the House. They go to the Senate after they come through us. And what happened was they didn't have the numbers. They didn't have the 36. In fact, I think they lost probably 7 of their members were just not going to vote yes on it. And they knew they would have lost their seats over it. It was a really bad thing. So at the last minute, they didn't bring it to the floor, and we're sitting in the caucus room all day. I mean, we were trying to finish the session, and we were basically getting delayed every hour. We come back, and they didn't want to talk about it on the floor. So what happened was the governor finally came in and said, okay, she produced a different bill altogether. It was a House Bill 3402, which was a -2 amendment to the original bill. And what it would have done was it would have raised gas taxes by 3 cents a gallon, which most people would probably say, okay, if that's what we need to do, that's fine. But the bad thing it did was it decoupled the funding that ODOT gets and it spends in the state. Right now we're on a 50-30-20 split. So 50% of it goes back to ODOT, 30 goes to, counties, and 20 to cities when you're doing road projects. It would have taken 100% of that and put it all into ODOT. Well, within just a couple of hours, there were thousands of people, Association of Oregon Cities, or Oregon Counties, everybody came to testify against it. So now we're pushing 10 o'clock at night, and that bill was going to fail too. And it kind of came down to, we let them do the first reading of it. We allowed the second reading of it. But when it comes to House rules and on the House floor, and that's part of my job, is being the whip, I have to make sure that the parliamentarian part of the job is done correctly. And we don't just allow them to do things. We would have had to have allowed them to go to the third readings that night. If it got to third readings, they could have voted that bill through, and then it would have went to the Senate, and the Senate would have had the choice of whether to not vote on it or whatever. But we decided at the last minute, with the Senate's advice, to say no, we're not gonna suspend the rules. We're not gonna allow the third reading of it. So there is, even though we're in the minority party, there's some power in the fact that it does take 40 votes to get to suspend rules. So essentially, we killed the bill. And at about 10:15 on that Friday night, we ended session. So it was a glorious night to call it a win for the Oregon people. I don't call this a win for the Republican Party. This was a win for Oregon. Yeah. And it was a glorious night to go home from Salem and not be there for a while. So now, we'll have.
Thank you for protecting Oregonians.
Absolutely. Now, immediately the governor was extremely pissed off, as I'm sure that people can see from the articles, and she's taking it out on rural counties and conservative counties in particular by cutting jobs. These jobs don't need to be cut. There is funds there to do this. There is ways to do this. And she, of course, now is calling for a special session. I just heard last night that there is potential that there will be a special session with a different plan. I haven't seen the whole plan. I know our leadership, Christine Drazen and Daniel Bonham, they just had a meeting with the governor. It didn't go well. But again, we'll find out, what the governor's plans are. So anyway, that one touched on base on that first, but go ahead and give me some input. What you guys think about?
This is a rhetorical question, but
Sure.
did the governor or any leadership ever discuss firing or laying off the leadership of ODOT, who hasn't been able to explain where $1 billion went before they asked for more from us? Is there any discussion of taking out the leaders, the management that are not able to be transparent?
Not one
No,
bit.
no conversation at all.
No. Most businesses, if for some reason, let's just say $1,000 disappeared, you would question your manager, your person that took the money in, all the way down the ladder. And you might even fire somebody over $1,000 hit on a small business. Well, it was $1 billion hit. The money wasn't there. It's not like they just took $1 billion on advantage. It just wasn't there. And it was figured into the budget as if it was. And so it was an accounting error, and it should have been, somebody should have, held somebody accountable for it, because so what they're saying is, if we gave them that extra $1 billion, where would that money have went? I mean, there was nothing. It's like, I don't get it. What's your thoughts on it, Trent?
Well, I just remember the night of the 27th, I got your text at 10:30. I won't repeat exactly what you texted me, but it went down the blankety blank poop hole.
Yeah, in flames.
In flames. Yeah. And my wife goes, what was that all about? I said, oh, the transportation bill just died, which was awesome. I mean, and again, it showed you we still have power to exercise, and that's,
we always do.
We always
I'm
do.
glad that we actually did it this time.
It always brings me back to why your vote counts and who you're voting for.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think what people need to really understand is, we're 24. There's 24 of us in the conservative side, Republicans in the House. It takes 36 votes to get a tax bill through. So we had 25 last year. We lost a seat in 24, 3, whatever. We lost a seat, but if we were able to pick up those swing seats, if we actually went out and voted and we pushed our number from like 24 to 26 even, it blocks all the taxes, or at least they have to go through us to get there. They can't just, willy-nilly say, hey, we're going to impose this tax. It does put their party in a predicament when they're talking about taxes that are so bad it's going to hurt everybody, because, and I'll touch on another thing, the tolling, right? Tolling died in 23. It sort of got through this year, although it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's alive and well. But you think about tolling, they want to toll Interstate 5, which I've heard now is going to be $20 per crossing is what they're talking about.
Into Washington.
Yeah. Well, at the bridge, but they're going to toll you at 205. They're going to toll you clear down on and so if you want to go through, that's what that whole entire construction thing was all about when they brought in all the fill. If they build those tolling booths and they actually get away with doing the tolling, then you're going to pay that toll when you go to Portland. You're going to pay it when you go to up the 205 to the airport, whichever way you go. The issue with that is that crosses right through some heavily Democrat districts. And I mean, Clackamas County, Multnomah County, Washington County, they're all very, they're very blue counties. And those folks that are representing them, they don't want to vote on that. They don't want to vote yes on that. So, I mean, taxes are not a foregone conclusion just because you're a Democrat.
Right.
There are some people that are smart enough to go, no, we're paying enough.
Too much now.
But,
and $20 per crossing is
distraction.
Yeah.
So $40 get over to Oregon.
Just a rumor I heard. Yeah, it might be $20 a day, but nonetheless, $20 a day. I mean, if you go to work every day, that's adds up. You have to quit chewing tobacco, quit smoking, or quit drinking. No more lattes. Dutch Brothers they're gonna suffer.
Well, they're leaving, aren't they? They
Dutch Brothers
pulled out
leaving.
some of their.
Which is a segue into my next topic. So I also just heard now that Oregon ranks 39th. We've dropped 11 points in business friendliness. I can tell you that in my committees.
I think you should tell your viewers where you got that information from the tax foundation. These are IRS numbers.
Yes, exactly. Tax Foundation, Taxpayer Association, all the groups that really have their finger on the pulse of what's going on in the state. We're losing businesses, and I'm sure you've all heard now that Intel is laying off almost 500 or maybe a little over 500 folks as well. And I will tell you that the committees that I sit on, energy, environment, climate and environment, we make it as hard as possible for businesses to start here and stay here. We either over green them, over environmentalize them, or we overtax them. And in the name of, saving the world. And I know when you were running your campaign against Val, that was part of your campaign.
Mhm.
I think I recall you talking about it. What's your thoughts on that?
On
On business friendliness?
well, just economic prosperity is what we should strive for, and that again, that's an issue. It's a nonpartisan issue. Like who I challenge Val Hoyle, who never did show up for debate,
No.
to explain why that shouldn't be our goal, to strive for economic prosperity, which would mean removing the regulations, the barriers to doing business.
Right.
I often put that in the context of housing. We have this stated goal of 36,000
Yep.
houses a year, falling far short of it. That was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, 20.
That we don't do, like, government doesn't do what it can do to remove the barriers and inspire the development of housing. So I heard repeatedly from, reliable sources that you'd have to spend $100,000 and an undefined period of time too, just to pay for all the permitting and requirements before you could even put a dollar into a $400,000 house.
Mhm.
And so it just doesn't pencil out for investors, but government has the capacity to do that. So I think there were just like tiny little incremental changes in this session. There was something about, it's really kind of crazy. This has to be a lot. You'll remember the bill and the specifics, but it's too bad we have to make laws that say when a developer submits a permit request, it should be done quickly. They
Yes.
had to put it in the law that it has to be addressed in like 120 days or something.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, we shouldn't have had to pass a
why
law
does it
for
have to
that.
be a law? I mean, it's kind of, so many of our laws are just relegated to the lowest
Yeah.
denominator. Just an employee that doesn't do their job should just get fired, and we should hire somebody who's willing to work, not change the law that you have to process paperwork in a timely way.
Well, and part of the problem with that is and I'll just tell you that the unions owned the session this year.
They own our politicians.
They own our politicians. They don't own me, and in
Yeah.
fact, they probably don't like me. That's fine.
Mhm.
But they own the Democrat Party,
Mhm.
and it's particularly they own our governor. I mean, SEIU. That's why she's doing what she's doing. And I think there's going to come a point where she's going to cross the line and laying off a bunch of their folks. I mean, ODOT's primarily SEIU is the union that they are part of. So, at a point, you can only do so much damage before the host dies. And the state is the host. The parasites obviously are we'll leave that undefined, but you know who I'm talking about. And I don't know, Trent, as a business owner, you're seeing craziness. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Daily, I just keep looking back. I've had multiple business. I've been had my own agency for 15 years now. And the biggest thing I can, just looking back, I remember a talk that Ronald Reagan did. He said the best thing government can do for economic growth in business is to step aside.
Yes.
And it seems like the Democrats are doubling down. They're not only stepping in front, but they're building these walls instead of on the border. They're building in front of us, so, making it hard to move forward.
Oregon literally discourages good behavior and
absolutely.
encourages bad behavior. I mean, it's just a basic principle of just even raising children.
Well, and on the topic of what Reagan said, having been a sales manager for most of my career with commercial sales and manufacturers reps, I always taught my reps, that I had several of them across the country. It's like, my job is your boss, obviously, but my job is to break down any barriers that are going to inhibit you from doing your job. You already know what you're doing, or I hired you. So if I can get stuff out of the way that'll help you, that's what I'm here for. I'm not here to tell you to get up out of bed every morning and go to work, do your job.
Same with the military.
Yeah.
We call it top cover.
Yep.
And you do your job. I'm going to let you do your job, and you tell me what your barriers and problems are, and my job is to remove them.
Yeah. That's right. You retired, I think, right, from the military?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you going to run for governor?
Do you think I should?
Did I put you on the spot? I don't know. Danielle Bethel came down, and she was on the podcast with us, and she's so far of all of the candidates we've seen, she is the most likely that I would support. But
She's getting an early start.
She's getting an early start, but
Like,
really, but what is early? I mean,
Yeah.
I think
When you're 5 years old, you should start thinking about it.
Well, I think it takes a lot of money to get to fund that, and obviously the current sitting governor she'll be way ahead of everybody else.
Well, I just hope we don't have 18 primary candidates. Just
And a spoiler, we don't hear another Betsy Johnson. We just need a spoiler.
Yeah, we should be thinking about Oregon. We should be thinking about the issues, and we should be selective about the candidates that even, I think there should be some honesty in political leadership.
Yeah.
When somebody, I respect anyone who stands up and says they're willing to put themselves out there and stand up for what they think is right. I think if you run for office, what you think is right should be consistent with what the majority of the people that live there think is right.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then, you have to be strategic. And so, just think of the donor's perspective. They just get depleted, right?
Yeah.
We've seen that.
Through of course, all the different races, but just, 18, what did we have last time? 18 different candidates for governor. And it just would have been nice for so-called Oregon experts in Republican politics to provide a little coaching.
And realistically, out of the 18, there were probably 3 that were serious. I mean, it goes all the way down to some of them had no reason to even be in the room, but they thought they should have been.
Yeah.
So yeah. Well, hey, listen, we're going to take a quick break to recognize some of our sponsors, and we will be right back, and we're going to have some cool topics to talk about here in just a few minutes. So with that, we'll be right back.
Is your 4x4 ready for the trail? Twin Peaks Off-Road is your first stop for maintenance, repairs, and custom upgrades. From differential services to winch installs, we do it all. Fast, reliable, and built for adventure. Don't wait for breakdowns in the backcountry. Call Twin Peaks Off-Road today at 541-900-0015 or visit twinpeaksoffroad.net. Keep your 4x4 off the roads and in the adventure.
I want to thank one of our sponsors of this show, Diamond Lake Mini Storage. If you need a little extra space, I will always recommend Diamond Lake Mini Storage. They have 45 brand new units ranging from 50 to 250 square feet with a safe and secure and clean facility. But they're more than just a storage business. They proudly support our local community through 4-H, UAC, Meals on Wheels, and other great programs that make Roseburg stronger. Ask about their move-in specials and visit them on roseburgforrent.com. That's roseburgforrent.com, storage with heart right here at home. Okay, welcome back to the Voice of Southern Oregon. This is On the Verge podcast, and we're going to talk about a few more topics here. And I want to, Monique, you have some stuff, forest management stuff I really want to get into, but I want to go over a couple notes I brought with me. And one of the things that I know we kind of touched base on, the Oregon being 39th in business friendliness now out of 50, we dropped 11 points. And what makes a state business friendly is tax incentives, workforce, particularly workforce, because labor is the most expensive part of your business. And we're losing people. The population in the state is shrinking. The educated population in the state is shrinking because they're moving places that don't have, the taxes aren't so high. And it's causing a trickle down effect on business, which has moved us now down to 39.
Which is the highest score we have on anything.
Yeah, I know. At least we're not 49th.
Unacceptable.
When it comes to schools, I think we are 49th in keeping our kids in schools and keeping their test scores high. We're horrible with that. I just want to touch base on that real quick, if you guys had any comments on that.
What? Earlier we were talking about removing the red tape, and that's just such a common sense solution that is within the control of government, who should be inspiring economic health. And I believe it's intentional at this point. I don't make the assumption that anybody's stupid and they don't understand basic economics and finances and how to run a business. I think it's, I don't understand philosophically, like, why would you want to drive prosperity out of your state?
Yeah.
I mean, the evidence is there, any subject at all. One thing that I marvel at watching the legislature session after session, they act like they're standing up government functions for the first time. It's like, we're going to a deployed location. How do you set up a hospital? How do you set up a town? and they're building it from scratch every time. And we've got to study it, for years before we even proceed. And we just never get, you have to talk about the barriers. You have to talk about what the problem is. Like you were saying, talk to your employee. Tell me what your problems are so I can remove them and you can get your job done. But you identify the problems and then you solve them creatively or whatever. And we just never seem to get to that point. And the result is, for years, people have been leaving Oregon. I mean, at Common Sense, we're working on and at the legislature, getting rid of the death tax, which Oregon has the worst death tax, meaning the lowest exemption. When you die, if you have $1 million in assets, your house, your cars, everything in it, $1 million, you're taxed over that 10 to 16%. Only 12 states in the country still have a state death tax. There's just been no interest from the lawmakers. The evidence, the data, the IRS numbers, and the analysis show that people leave. And it's people 55 to 65 that make over 100,000. Yep. They own the businesses, they create jobs, and they're leaving and taking all their income tax with them. But it just seems that our lawmakers don't want to pay attention and think long term.
I think I agree with you 100%. I see what you're saying. In fact, Kevin Mannix, our representative, I think is the one that's championing the death tax reduction thing, which you used to work for him, I believe. Yeah. So, yeah. But I think that I feel like our legislature is so hung up right now on environmental issues, primarily. I think that's the number one issue. And number two, keeping the unions happy. And to the point where they're killing our economy. And I've often said this in the district, and I'll continue to say it. The most threatening thing that can happen to the Oregon economy is environmental legislation, right? Yeah. And we'll get into that. Because I know you want to talk about forest management as well. But environmental legislation has already hampered our logging industry, and it's killed a lot of what we do and how we've thrived in a state that should be. We're mineral rich, we're agricultural rich, and we're killing our farms. And we have to stop the trend.
Yes.
I haven't. Part of why I joined the legislature is I want to represent the people here in the district. But I also thought, I think maybe I can go to Salem and make a difference, right?
Yes.
And I think in some ways, we all have. I mean, everybody in the legislature has their own kind of wheelhouse, and they make some changes. But that's one that we have to get rid of people that, like Representative Gamba, who is and Representative Pham, who are all about you shouldn't have a car.
I think it's all about ego, and there's the only thing that's green about the green plan and these environmental agendas is money.
They're getting paid.
No, I mean there's the whole wildfire fighting industrial complex, I'm convinced, is more lucrative to these characters than harvesting timber responsibly.
Which would take.
There's been no indication really that they care about the animals and the trees,
Right.
Of the air. Because nothing's improved, and they've had the power. They've been in charge.
Yeah.
And so I think time's up. And
it's funny because I hear even our local Democrats will say, "Oh, it's time for change." It's like, okay, well, what do you want to change? Because your party's the one that's running the show.
Yeah.
Well, not in Douglas County. It's all Republicans. You don't think we have to follow state law? It's not. If it was up to me, we would be harvesting timber. And you wouldn't be sitting there. We wouldn't have the homeless population because they'd be out working.
Yeah.
Whether it be in a mill, in the woods, in a saw shop, in a tire shop, whatever, there would be so many jobs that there would be enough people to fill.
People cannot seem to connect the dots. And I think we can forget because we discuss these issues, so we know the stories and we understand the chain of events that led to the economic crisis that the state is in.
Right.
But, people have to take personal responsibility to be informed. So, I've been at Common Sense. I was there before the campaign, and it was founded by Kevin Mannix. And we had a real focus on public safety. And you just hear the resounding excuse that public safety, we don't have it because we don't have resources, we don't have money. And then it's like, first of all, there's plenty of money. It's just going to the wrong place.
There's plenty of money.
But all of law enforcement, schools, all of these broken systems in Oregon were wildly funded by timber receipts. And you know the numbers off the top of your head more than I do. But like jaw-dropping. It's like, 125 million 20 years ago to just this county is now less than 2 million or something. It's just like literally a federal taking.
Yeah.
And And so I've been interested now. So after the campaign, I came back to Common Sense, just absolutely convinced that the forest management, wildfires, and timber, all that is the epicenter of every problem that that ails Oregon, except of course the leadership. I mean, because you could be bringing all that timber money in and still attracting all the homeless from all over the country, if not the world. So you still have to be responsible,
We're a
even if.
sanctuary state.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. The timber industry, and of course I fight for them every chance I get. I mean, my entire family worked in or around or connected to a mill, and even now, I mean, a lot of our income locally is driven from the timber that we can cut. I was if you followed the podcast, you've heard me say this before, but in 2020, I think it was the Archie Creek fires. I was one of the first responders on that fire. I was literally one of the first people on scene, and that was just an absolutely crazy day. In fact, the next 3 days were very life-threatening, and fortunately, we didn't lose anybody.
Right.
But we did some unprecedented things. We evacuated an entire city, the whole entire city of Clyde. We went door to door and got everybody out. When I first arrived on scene, not quite at Susan Creek, but at the Dogwood Hotel, when that fire was raging, that fire was raging through a burn that had happened, I don't know, 5 years prior, and dead standing timber.
And the science is well established that that's highly flammable.
Yeah. And there's nothing you can do to fight a fire in that because you can't enter it on foot. You can't enter it with trucks. Of course, they take the roads out anyway.
Fly over it.
You can fly over it in helicopters, and they were trying. And the helicopters, I think I watched 2 helicopter drops before they had to leave because the smoke was just so bad. And the wind was atrocious that morning. We had wind gusts up to 50 miles an hour and above. But I think I saw one tanker plane dump, and then he never came back either. And then the fire burned 67,000 acres in the first 8 hours. I mean, it was an inferno. I have said, and actually I'll announce this here. I actually just took a job. It's a consulting, it's a contractor job, but as a wildfire resilience outreach person for Glide Revitalization. I'm pretty excited about it. Technically start here at the end of the month.
Resilience being prevention.
Right. I'll be going door to door and talking to people within that district about what they can do to harden their structures, their houses or whatever, which is fine. I mean, I think that's something that I'm happy about.
That is a much better solution than a arbitrary fire map.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And you will,
And that was a major topic of the legislation this year. So I've always been an advocate to say that if we were managing our timber by harvesting and building logging roads and building reservoirs, that we wouldn't have this wildfire issue. And that's what we used to do in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 50s even. I think we did overlog in the 50s and 60s. And I don't say we overlogged. We didn't replant.
Okay.
I think we logged what we needed to log, and we just didn't take the time to go back and replant. Now it's the law. I mean, Oregon Department of Forestry, you have 2 years to replant. And when you do replant, if the timber that comes up doesn't make it above the shrubbery or whatever they call it, the brush, within 2 years, you got to do it over again. So, I mean, it's very, very strict.
That sounds like a good common sense policy.
Yeah, well, that means you have to spray. And Democrats hate that, but you do once you've logged, you need to burn, and a lot of times they'll slash burn. They go back in and they spray to keep so that the new trees can come in. They'll plant right after they spray within that fall, and then the trees they'll have a fighting chance of getting above the poison oak and blackberries and whatever. But if we managed our timber, we would have not only a resource that would pay for wildfire fighting, right, which was part of this whole legislature trying to find a way to fund it, but we would also have the ability to stop as many wildfires.
And we'd have jobs.
And we would have jobs. And that, touching on your forest management issues, go ahead, run with it.
Well, I'm really excited to hear about this. I mean, it was nice of you to invite me on because I was planning to come talk to you about this because I know you have that background. And I've been talking to lots of experts. I don't even aspire to be an expert. These are lessons learned over your lifetime.
Sure.
And what I think I'm good at is bringing the right people together to the table. And I'm so excited about the opportunity we have on the federal level. It's like for the first time in decades, we seem to have a receptive federal government to common sense solutions on accessing our resources and preventing all these things you're talking about. And so I've been asking people who've been involved for many years, like, who's riding herd on getting Oregon policy, aligned to take advantage of whatever we agree with on the federal level. I think about the mills that closed during the campaign in our district. It was 7, at least 7.
Yeah, we lost
In that 1 year, Val Hoyle never mentioned a word about it. No problem.
I don't understand that either.
Well, and she was supported by timber.
Yes.
They supported her financially, so they were more concerned about, I guess, their forests than the border of our country. And so, I mean, that is one good thing. A lot of positive things out of the campaign, but you really find out what the agendas are that would surprise you. But my point is, those mills, I'm doing a little project researching the ones that have closed. There's one that just closed in Pendleton.
Yeah.
And so I will ask an expert, because I don't know. I was like, well, I mean, can you just fire them back up? I mean, can we be, yeah, and that's what I hear, but it's like, but you don't just say, well, forget about milling wood in Oregon then. You go, okay, well, what's our inventory of mills? Where are they situated? This is just me brainstorming, are they near the federal forests that the feds are willing to let us access? And just like kind of assess, what do we have here and what can we take advantage of if we were all on the same page and said, we want our state to experience economic prosperity. We want jobs, we want healthy air, we want healthy forests, but we just sit and mill over that, right? But anyway, once we get enough people in the state legislature to come together on policy that is pretty much already laid out, and we just need to brush it off, fine tune it to current conditions, and have a proposal for the feds that we can work with. So that's what I wanted to talk to you. And so what I'm finding is there really isn't any. I wanted to ask you this. Is there any organization or group of leaders from either party that are ready to advance and take advantage of this opportunity?
When you talk about opportunity, you're talking about the Trump administration opening up the woods to more,
Yeah.
So
Well, to woods, to timber, to housing, all those conversations.
So that's a lot of conversation to cover in 10 minutes. But
Yeah.
Yes, there are. Okay. When you talk about cutting timber on federal lands, you still have things which I understand Trump's also working on, the NEPA. You got to do NEPA studies on everything, make sure. And I understand Trump is now circumventing some of the Environmental Protection Agency's plans. So there's a chance that he can speed that up. But you also have, the industry here has been literally decimated. We don't have the head rigs at our sawmills that can handle trees. I want to say Roseburg Forest Products head rig, and I could be wrong on this, but I think it goes up to 28 inches of diameter. A lot of the timber that's been left to grow way longer than it should way exceeds that. So that limits your number of mills to start with. Then you also have, I know that RFP can push 1 million board feet of lumber through their sawmill in one shift. I think it's an 8-hour shift. And I went and did the tour.
RFP.
Yeah, Roseburg Forest Products, yeah. And there's a few other sawmills around too. So there's a capacity issue, right? So we need
contract issue too, I'm hearing.
Yeah,
if you're going to invest in a mill, you want to know that you can access the timber for at least 10 years.
Right.
Yes. And you also have, you have logging companies that have either gone away or they've cut back their, it's a great problem to have because all of a sudden you've got to hire people, you've got to put in equipment back into the mix that hasn't been used in years. The problem is that's expensive.
Yeah.
And it's governed and regulated too.
I think the federal, instead of asking for billions of dollars to recover from a decimating wildfire, why don't we ask for federal funding with this administration to outfit our mills,
Yeah. And I think there's definitely an avenue for that. Now,
what agency or entity or nonprofit is doing that work?
That would be people like Douglas Timber Operators here, who represent most of our current Douglas County, and even I think it's a little bit out of Douglas County, the mills and the timber owners. They're the ones that would champion that. In fact, we're going to have Matt Hill he's the chair. We're going to have him on this show here, I think maybe next week. He's camping this week, but that's where that has to start.
Okay.
And then just much like the oil industry, the Biden administration shut down all of the leases or most of the leases, and the oil industry works on futures. They don't work on today. They work on what's going to make sense 10 years from now. So they quit, and the timber guys, they diversified into other things. I mean,
Yeah, of course.
Lone Rock now owns a pizza chain, and I don't know, they own several different things. They went into
Sonic.
maybe Sonic too. Yeah.
Well, that decision needs to be made, actually. Do Oregonians want to change the dynamic, the paradigm that we're trapped in now?
Right.
And
what
would that take? And of course, it's going to take a long term to go from, I've heard numbers of Oregon, the United States was provided 90% of the world's timber.
Yeah, we were the timber.
90% of exports, and now we are almost 90% imports from China, Brazil, Canada. First, the decision needs to be made. Do we want to keep doing that? Yes or no? And who in Oregon says we want to change that? And then, because I want to work with those people, and so many topics.
Right.
We were talking about this earlier. I just noticed everybody kind of is in their own silo. They've got to do their own fundraising, set up their own studio, do all the work that is quite expensive and time consuming. You got to find intelligent people that have the good work ethic, that are bold, and will reach out to all the other stakeholders. Who are the people we need to be talking to in the federal government besides the obvious,
Yeah.
How do we get this done? We need to orchestrate those efforts. And I know timber works on their own, but like I said, why are they funding a Democrat who doesn't want to change anything about? Yeah, I mean, that's.
No, I think that had to do. I know what you're saying, and I get it. I think that had a lot to do with Val's predecessor.
Well, the only reason I bring it up is it's kind of hard to believe. Should all of Oregon rest their faith in that group of people is actively pursuing opportunities with the current federal administration maybe they're just happy with the alternative businesses that they've gone to. They all needed their.
I don't think that's the case. I think I don't know. I mean, I'm not a timber owner, but
but we need to know who wants to work on this, and that's what we're doing at Common Sense. And I wanted to work with the legislators because I do think we need some laws that are going to change. We're going to need some Oregon laws that are going to complement or work with or be in sync with federal laws.
Always happy to help.
Yeah, wetlands mitigation, we're working on that. The definition of wetlands is different for the feds and the state.
But state and local trumps the federal. As long as it exceeds the federal law, then it takes precedence. If it's less than, then the federal law takes precedence, and that's a real problem in Oregon because our planning laws are horrible. They're not, they don't, well, we just passed a bill. I got a bill through here in Roseburg, 3921, that allowed wetlands, an urban growth zone to swap because we had a hillside of places you couldn't build, but it wasn't considered inside the urban growth boundary. And we had, I don't know, 230 or 40 acres of land that could be built on. And we were able to do that swap. And that was like a major thing to get done. And that frees up 700 houses in Roseburg.
Right.
So, I mean, that could,
Did you get that project going? Yes.
Governor wanted
it. That's such a great example. Because the governor wanted it.
The governor wanted it. She put word out that bill was going to pass, and that's
great.
Sadly, that's how politics works, right?
I feel like she's an improvement for sure over Chaos Kate, I like to call it.
In some ways.
But whatever, if we can get any improvement at all. But the wetlands mitigation issue is, when I went back to Common Sense after the campaign, we were focusing on housing. And so I read the executive order, the emergency declaration, looked at the report out of this big ensemble of experts. They studied it for a year. Really, why do we have to this is, again, like I said, they act like they're building houses for the first time. It's new land. It hasn't been there for hundreds of years. Anyway, they spent all this time, they come up with the report, and there's very little mention of wetlands mitigation.
Because they don't want to, because that's an environmental issue.
Bingo. Yeah. Okay, well, it's a money issue. It's not environmental. Well, it's because our wetlands are not being preserved. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, Oregon is a wetland. Every bit of the bleep western Oregon is a wetland.
Yeah.
I can see when you get into eastern Oregon, there's some stuff to talk about, but Yeah, it's been a real challenge. One thing I want to touch base on is, I am definitely pro timber, but I'm not anti everything else. And I think the movement with our local Democrat Party here is we need to get rid of the timber industry altogether. We need to move on to tourism.
Yeah.
And I'm going, okay, let's do that. Let's think about that for a second. So what if you have a mill that employs, pick a number, I think Roseburg Forest Products at their heyday was about 2,500 people. Let's just call it 2,000 people. And each of those 2,000 people are making a living wage job,
Yeah.
whatever that be at the time. And I was one of them at one time.
Mhm.
Now, let's talk about the local wineries. Let's say we have 10 wineries, and each of those wineries are owned by probably a couple. Okay? And they're serving people that are coming in for tourism, and they might go up the North Umpqua and look at the waterfalls, which is free. And they might come to the store and spend a few bucks or maybe spend a few dollars in town for dinner. You see where I'm going with this?
Yes. What do you mean exactly when you say I support timber? Because, just that when I support timber, to me, that means the management of timber, accessing timber in a responsible way, using that God-given resource to improve our community so it's an economic boon, doing it responsibly and caring for the forest. Like, that's what I feel I support timber means.
But the law, yes, of course. But you can't do that without mills. And you can't do that without
You
farmers.
have to have a system that supports that. And
Yeah.
the thing is, I met with the activist groups, the anti-timber, and it's like, the thing is, we can all agree, tourists are not going to want to come and view a burned out, wasteland, which is what so many beautiful areas are now.
Yeah.
I've heard that the fire's burning so hot, it's actually sterilizing the ground.
True.
So, can't we agree that what we're doing now is not working?
Yeah.
Like, you think it's because it's because we're irresponsible creatures on Earth and we're causing the Earth to heat up. Like, that's fine. That probably means we need to expedite our plan to remove the fuels.
Well, the actual fact is we grow more timber in the Umpqua National Forest by far, and I wish I had Freeman here to tell me the number, but I don't remember the number is, but it's billions and billions of board feet more than we actually harvest every year. And people don't understand what does that mean? Well, that means a tree goes from this big around to that big around, and then you multiply it by 10 million trees, and that's how. So you're growing wood, you're growing trees, which also grows the threat of wildfire because now the trees are closer together. We're not going in and thinning them, and that's federal land.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's federal land. Now, Oregon is 53% owned by federal.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't even know why we call all of it Oregon, but we have an opportunity now where Oregon gets to participate in the federal forests.
We do. Unfortunately, it has been decoupled from the counties, so it's not going to help the counties. So other than the jobs created will.
Well, why can't Oregon make proposals that it's a negotiation.
That was that's not a negotiation. That's part of Trump's big, beautiful bill. And Trump's big, beautiful bill, it decoupled the income from the federal forests back to the counties. So right now the counties get a percentage of every tree cut.
Yeah.
That's gone.
Mm-hmm.
That's not up for discussion. There may be down the road.
I think it was the Democrats that insisted on that coming out, but I'm not positive.
I don't know, but it didn't fly, and it's still in the bill.
But we kind of need to know that because we've got Wyden wants to run again. He votes very anti-timber.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
But, I don't know if everybody knows that. So.
No. I think everybody is aware our Democrat representatives are who they are. But I think the only chance that's not all grim. It's just a grimmer than it should be because that's what pays for schools, right? So that's what pays for the infrastructure of the county, and that money is not going to increase. But there's a bright side. So not all of Oregon is owned by the feds, right? Especially in Douglas County, we're heavily O&C land, and we have, there's different timber companies that own. The increase in logging in general I believe will increase that take as well, which creates log truck driver jobs, chart yarder operators, cat skidders, whatever. And also with all the associated things, saw shops, tire shops, groceries, restaurants, fuel. So I think the economy in Douglas County will be better, but the infrastructure is not going to necessarily get better.
Well, so this is a great example of what I was saying earlier, that we have in discussion, like we're raising this kind of major obstacle to achieving the county goal. But we have to figure out how to get around it. We maybe have to get creative about how do we get money from this new paradigm to the counties. But I don't even know that we've gotten to the point where we agree that we want to harvest timber off of federal land. The federal government is saying they want to, but I don't know if Oregon is. So that's an issue. Like, we pin it. Like, why are we motivated to do this if none of the money comes to the county? I mean,
Well, that's driven from the Forest Service or BLM. Let's just call it Forest Service for this
Yeah.
particular. They're going to put up land for timber sales, and they're told that, you know, the Trump administration is basically saying, look, you got to sell this many billion board feet of timber, lumber, whatever.
mhm.
And so those will go out on the open market, and then it will become the timber companies that they're actually able to harvest companies that are able to do the harvest will decide to bid on the jobs.
Okay.
So that's going to happen. But that, you know, then everything trickles down from there, and, you know, the discussion gets broader from there on down. We're gonna have to come back and do this again.
Then we have
It's not gonna. Well, and you know what? You're not that far away, so I really appreciate you coming down and just,
Yeah.
you know, doing. I like to do our podcast in person because
Oh, me too.
people like to see the faces. I don't want this to be a Zoom thing. I want this podcast to be the information for Southern Oregon. I want people to ask questions. And I think at some point we've talked about going live, but if nothing else, comment, ask the question on social media or on YouTube, and we'll address it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I'd love to do like a series of discussions because it's huge
Oh,
on the forests, the fires, you know, that whole, and how do we.
I might be able to get you back with Matt Hill if you'd like to do that. Now, there's another whole part of this, and that's the Indian tribes, because the tribes now own a lot of timber, and they're not under the same federal laws that we are.
Right.
They can do some things, but anyway, I want to. We got to wind down here because we're coming to the end of our podcast, and it always goes so darn fast. I wish we had hours to talk, but a couple things I want to touch base on real quick before we wrap it up here. Everybody wants to know, what kind of projects did we get for Douglas County? There's always, at the end of the session, there's a Christmas tree bill. And within the Christmas tree bill, there was a whole lot of things that I really despised. And one of those things, I'll just go off on that first. One of those things I despised was the $10 million give to Portland for the James Baird flea market, basically. And it came through our committee, and I said in committee, I'm like, you know what? I can't believe that we're going to give $10 million to downtown Portland to invest in a building for businesses and, you know, hot dog stands or whatever, when I can't even get, you know, the city of Myrtle Creek wants a new water tank, and I can't get that. I can't get $3 million in Southern Oregon, but we're going to give them 10 to Portland. And that Christmas tree bill was just filled with that kind of garbage.
It makes me wonder, do all those fentanyl users have a lobbyist or something? I mean, they're perfectly happy just laying on the park bench. I don't know why we need to improve the flea market.
It's horrible that the majority of all that money, and it's a lot of money, and I wish I knew the number. I don't remember what it is, but I want to say it's $1 billion. It's a lot that goes into the projects, which is what's called the Christmas tree bill. And it's horrible that the majority of those projects go to blue districts. There was a lot of money that was earmarked to go toward, I don't know, museums and theaters and that kind of stuff, which I'm not terribly opposed to that. I think that culture is important, and I think we should spend some money on that. I want to be real clear with people who don't understand. The $800 million that is supposed to go to Portland for the baseball stadium that's going to be supposedly built in Portland is not coming from the Christmas tree bill, and it is not coming out of general funds. That money is coming from private investors, and they are going to come in and build this baseball stadium. And the way they're going to get repaid is all the taxes that are coming from the baseball player salaries and associated people with that. Those dollars go back to those investors first. Once that money has been met, which they're estimating at worst case 15 years, best case 7 years, then those taxes go back to Portland, or, you know, whatever state taxes. So that's more of a bond issue. And unfortunately, I've seen on social media several people like, oh, we'll give $800 million to Salem or Portland. Technically, not really. Inadvertently, I suppose you could look at it that way, but that's not the case. Now, I will also say that we are in competition with Salt Lake City for that stadium. The team hasn't decided whether or not to come to Portland or Salt Lake City. To me, it's a no-brainer. I wouldn't come to Portland. Portland's a disaster area right now. I questioned the mayor directly in committee about what dollars they were going to invest in police force, and he assured me in committee that they were going to come in and they were going to invest money in security and police and everything. And within a month, they cut $2 million out of the Portland police budget. So I don't trust anybody in council in
They cut the
Portland.
DA's budget too,
Because of the,
just to punish him for enforcing the law.
yeah. So, I mean, Portland is a hot mess. As Portland goes, the state goes. And sadly, that's where we're at. I mean, Portland is the iconic city of our state, and it has gone downhill, and our state has followed it in some ways. But I will tell you, for Douglas County, we did have some stuff in the Christmas tree bill. Governor Kotek has not signed this yet. So I'm going to, and this is the first time I'm announcing it, so you're going to hear about it today for the first time. I had about 7 projects that I was hoping to get. I got 4. One of them, it was getting the money back for the veterans home. The $35 million is something that has to be renewed every biennium, so we were able to get it back. So we have that $35 million coming out of the Christmas tree bill. We got $1.4 million for the Rock Creek Fish Hatchery, which will fund that fish hatchery for staffing for 2 years. So through the biennium, and of course the Indians are also kicking in with that too and helping out. But they wanted to see that 1.4. We actually asked for 2. We got 1.4. Better than nothing. I got $500,000 for the Sutherland Fire Department to do some expansion work and building. I think they're going to add on to their fire department as well. And I got $176,000 for the cancer center downtown to buy a new piece of equipment to.
Nice.
It's some kind of something. I don't remember what it's called, but so we did get a few wins for Douglas County for District 2. We didn't get all the things I wanted. I was hoping for more, but we got some stuff. Now I will again say the governor has not signed that bill yet. I need to look, because usually by now she has, but she's so pissed off over the ODOT transportation bill. There's a good chance she could line item veto a few things, and if that happens. If she line item vetoes $35 million for the veterans home, I hope every veteran in this entire state lets her know exactly how they feel, because that would be not good. And I can't say enough cuss words to cover that, so I just won't. But closing thoughts. Trent, you've been a little quiet, so
Yeah.
let's go to you first.
Oh no, as you know, the cancer center is kind of close to my heart. I've
Yes.
been on the board of trustees for about 15 years with
Yep.
Commissioner Freeman. And that's pretty cool, and that will go a long ways to help us with our mission of helping people in the community. So I'm really excited about where we're heading as a party. And I'll say this again. I said this a couple weeks ago. It's our responsibility to get out and vote. It's a right. It's a privilege, and it's an honor, because there's a lot of places that you're told how to vote. In America, you're not told how to vote. But the sad thing is, in our last special election, 30% of the vote only, maybe less. It was terrible.
Douglas County,
And
13%.
yeah, people, you need to get out and vote. You want to see change in Oregon, go vote. Your vote counts.
All you got to do is mail it in.
That's right. You know,
Yeah.
your
What
vote.
Virgil's doing here, sharing this information, just underscores why it's important to vote, but it's to inform your vote.
Yeah.
And I think, some people, we talked about the decline in civility, but yet in politics, it's kind of like, oh, we don't want to put the tail on the donkey kind of thing. But we need to tell our constituents who's voting for what.
Yeah.
It's not to be mean or call names. It's like, you need to be informed, because if, the veteran, if the governor doesn't support the veterans home, people need to know that if that's important to them, they need to know who it wasn't important to. And then they do need to vote with that information.
Absolutely.
Well, and I've said this before. I'm not a very good politician because I guess I am a politician, but I am going to be very open, very honest, and very transparent about everything that goes on. So,
Well, you know what that makes you, not to interrupt, but you're a good representative.
I appreciate.
That's what this is about. Being a representative of all the people who are working and raising their families and being their voice. And I think so many politicians forget that. But a couple Democrats remembered that on the transportation bill.
That's true. Yeah, absolutely. Trent, before we close too, I want to say thank you again for all your efforts for the luau that you put on for the Republican Party
It was fun.
fundraiser. Yeah, it was a good time. Great food, pig in the ground, incredible food.
Senator Bottom was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Daniel Bottom he's a rock star when it comes to.
He was great. The whole day, Satila Tuivanu opened it up. Samoan friend of mine, and he was an immigrant.
Yeah.
And then the Star Spangled Banner, I was
brought a tear to my eye.
yeah, I know. I was I was a mess there for about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
She was awesome.
Yeah, she was incredible. Next year, I'm sure, is already kind of in the works, and we've got some stuff planned. I've been seeing some text messages for October, I think, or something as well.
We have a Trump Reagan dinner.
Yeah. If you didn't get a chance to come out and support your Republican Party, you will not be disappointed. The food, the entertainment, and also the speakers were, myself included, I thought were great.
Yeah, and I love to bring the Polynesian culture into it, because it's something that through a certain local family we're very ingrained in, and it's about the Hawaiians call it ohana, which is brotherhood or family.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, and Monique, in closing, do you have anything you want to?
I'm just thrilled to be here with both of you today, and I'm so glad that you're doing this. This is what transparency and leadership is. This is what happened in the last 6 months. And
well, listen,
good work.
we're going to ask you back. So
well, I feel really strongly about this opportunity we have for Oregon with the forest. So I hope we can spend some time working on that.
Well, and something I've been thinking about for the future, and I'm going to talk with Little Mill about this, is I would kind of like to get myself and Alex Scarlatos and Younger, possibly, maybe Court, a few of us around the table, and if we can figure out a way to, I kind of want to do an online town hall. And make it part of a podcast, so we can people can ask questions and we can answer the questions. And you know what? This is recorded. So once we've answered the question, you can always come back and say, well, this is how you answered it, and this is what we can't make it up. And it's like putting it on.
Remember when we did this with the veterans? We did it at
I do.
At
the Winston DFW, yeah.
And one thing that still sticks with me is, like, we had all those veteran services representatives, and some of them didn't even know each other.
Yeah.
And so same with all of these challenges
Brought
that
them all
we
together.
face, bring them together, start working together, maximize all of our limited resources. And
Fantastic idea.
we need to do it, especially for this county, but for the state of Oregon, we need to do it on the forests, the fires, and of course veterans. I'm always in.
Hey, veterans they have a piece of my heart, and we're going to take care of them forever, as long as I'm around.
Absolutely.
So listen, we got to run. That's about all the time we have for today's show. So I want to thank again our sponsors real quick, Little Mill Media, who puts this thing on for us. Twin Peaks Off-Road, my company that helps sponsor this. Also Diamond Lake Mini Storage. And who am I missing? Unless you're missing somebody else.
That's everybody for now.
What's that?
That's everyone for now.
Yeah, that's everyone for now.
Well, I'm hoping Common Sense for Oregon can be a part of that.
That would be great.
.org.
Yeah.
A website.
No, go ahead.
No, it's at Common Sense for Oregon, just FOR spelled out, .org. And you'll see, I need to update things a bit, but you'll see the work we've been doing over the years.
Yeah. And please like and follow us on, we're everywhere. We're Facebook, we're YouTube, we're Apple Music, Amazon Music, Spotify, and I think I've heard 13 others. I don't run that part of this deal. That's what Little Mill does for us. But please like and follow us, share, and the more information that gets out there, I think the better, the stronger our state will be, particularly Southern Oregon. So it's really important to us for that. So again, thank you all for joining, and thank you all for watching our podcast, and we will see you next Friday. Thank you.